Unintuitively enough, the Archie Sonic comic started out not with issue 1, but with the Sonic mini-series. So that was kind of annoying for me. I'm going to briefly summarize my main opinions on the first story because I technically already reviewed it earlier. Problem is, the last time I reviewed it, it was kind of, well, the audio wasn't perfect. The story is about a leak of water being discovered in Knothole that everyone's worried about because Robotnik will use it to locate their base as a result. Tails looks hideous on the first page here. I don't really like the design of him. At least it's only really that look that's really terrible. The rest of the comic, he looks alright. I find it stupid that random badniks can talk. Even more stupid that Sonic actually stops in front of a caterpillar instead of immediately destroying it. And Sonic breaks the fourth wall by condescendingly telling the audience something they're already going to find out of their own in the next few panels. Tails looks like an idiot from trying to imitate Sonic and tripping for absolutely no reason, being characterized as the cute bumbling idiot of the group. Something I find pretty disturbing considering Tails was always canonically a genius in Sonic 2. I don't really like how he's characterized in the early comic. Like, he doesn't even really do anything. Sally makes it obvious that she idolizes Sonic and is a dishonest tsundere about it, which I don't really find funny. There's an albeit funny joke with the way Sonic greets Antoine in response to it. Like, seriously, that is actually pretty funny. I wasn't expecting him to say yes to that. And Antoine makes a very awkwardly stilted dialogue that is half-heartedly justified as him being bad at making dramatic speeches. Eggman vows to eliminate Sonic the Hedgehog, sitting at a desk full of words that insult him. Seriously, how delusional is he that he's not insulted by all this? He correctly assumes that the Freedom Fighters are outside the woods because his satellite spotted non-robots in it. And after a genuine moment of tension where Sonic takes a while trying to find a magical artifact from the well, we get a genuine bad point in the comic because Sonic uses the ring as a Deus Ex Machina. If Sonic can just use any old ring scattered around all the levels for Mobius to grant him whatever wish he wants, why can't he just wish Robotnik into a jail cell? I can buy that rings grant him temporary invincibility, but this is just too much considering what a plot hole it creates. Why is the ring so restricted in what wishes it can grant that it can only inconvenience Robotnik like this? Is it that the ring can only grant simple wishes? How does it even determine what a simple wish is? And the very, very basic plot of the comic that served only to gently introduce you to the series ends with the Freedom Fighters planting trees to show their love of nature. Now, I have no problem with the plot being basic since it is the first issue ever after all. It's there to establish the setting and everything. But there's so many problems with this one panel. I guess these are magical willow trees that can choose to start weeping in response to bad things happening. It is a magical world after all, I guess I can accept that. They bury Antoine in the dirt like a bunch of bullies, and even though Sally's supposed to be the one person among them that cares about him, at least a little, she's not helping him out and expressing disapproval. She just stood by and let this happen. So did Tails, even though he's supposed to be a sweet little kid. Well, this issue in general doesn't actually make him look like a sweet kid. Just a regular tag-along kid. Sonic winks at the camera for another unnecessary fourth wall breaking moment, and Rotor uses a pun as an excuse for why he pulled a mean prank on Antoine. Granted, I get it, Antoine at this point in the comics is as likable as a block of wood, but his friends are still being bullies to him, and it doesn't make them look sympathetic. Why did Antoine let himself get buried in the ground in the first place? How long would that take? I've never seen so many different problems with one picture in my life. But yeah, it was a good comic. It was an enjoyable read. And now for the real meat of the video, something I haven't seen before. Ono Robo Bobo. That's a silly title. That kinda goes without saying though, since the start of the Archie Sonic comic had its tone more based on what Sad AM's tone was originally supposed to be. A comedy aimed purely at kids. This means that so many of the comic's issues have silly titles that stopping to point out every single time would be redundant. Anyway, this issue is very important and an excellent way to introduce the comic in theory, because it's all about explaining why Mobius became such a dark and edgy dystopia. I could do without Sonic patronizing the audience by breaking the fourth wall at the start, though. But since everyone in Mobius at that point in time must already know why it went to shit, I suppose they didn't feel like they had a choice. Who else could he tell the story to? You don't necessarily have to have the story's framing device be Sonic telling the audience the origin of Mobius' downfall, though. You could have just started the story and have the story speak for itself. I mean, you could have narration at the very top at the start telling you that it takes place in the past, so the audience wouldn't be confused. So, apparently Mobius used to be a pretty fine world, and Sonic lived a pretty casual life for a teenager with his uncle making up chili dogs. Where are his parents at this point in time? Is he being raised by his uncle? I guess we'll find out. My first thought seeing this panel is that some may find it weird that this world contains both anthropomorphic talking animals and regular dogs. But then again, in the real world, humans came from apes, and yet we still have apes around, so I guess it's a similar situation here. There could still be regular dogs as well as anthro dogs. It's not like all the regular dogs all mutated to anthros at the same time. Well, like a small group of them did, leaving two separate species. So ultimately, I'm kind of fine with Sonic having a regular dog. It makes him more likable and relatable as a character. And a more normal person than a Gary Stu superhero. My only real problem with this panel is how Uncle Chuck looks. As someone who didn't grow up with the old Sonic cartoons or comics, he looks to me like a lazy Sonic original character. Like they just took Sonic and gave him big white eyebrows and a mustache. Now I have no doubt that he's a nice, friendly person and a great character as a result. I like how he humanizes Sonic by giving him a loving family member, which makes him more relatable and believable as a character. And ultimately, that's all that matters. But just looking at him, he definitely has a better design in his robot form, because this is just lazy. And I can't help but be distracted by it. I know there's family resemblance, but this is just ridiculous. At least make him a little taller so I can buy that he's an adult. The next panel is actually really clever and shows that maybe the writer has thought more deeply about the franchise than you'd expect. Because he actually realized that if Sonic really could run at the speed of sound, the friction along the ground would ruin their shoes. So it makes perfect sense that Sonic would have to get special shoes that don't have that problem. It's great that they explain this away so early on. It shows passion. So is Uncle Chuck a gadgeteer genius on the level of Rotor or something? Did he use the magic of the Chaos Emeralds or something to achieve such an impossible feat? I guess so. And then Sonic talks to his dog about his uncle being an inventor as if he didn't already know that. So did he just get that dog or what? It feels like an awkward, forced way of explaining to the audience something that's already been made blatantly obvious the minute it was revealed that Chuck made magic shoes. Also, believing that this new Sonic lookalike character is not only an inventor, but also the greatest chili dog maker on the planet, and Sonic's uncle is kind of stretching it a bit. They really want us to be impressed with him. Seriously, that's something an original character in a fanfiction would do. It's a good thing he's such a likable character. So, Chuck tells Sonic to deliver some chili dogs. 200 of them. First off, oh, I just realized there's another problem. How would they have enough ingredients to make 200 chili dogs in that tiny little stand? But yeah, my other problems. First off, some of them would go cold. In fact, almost all of them would in the time it would take to make 200 chili dogs. So we're expected to believe that not only does Uncle Chuck have magical action friction shoemaking technology, but that he can also prevent all these chili dogs from getting cold before they reach their customers. Okay, whatever, comic. I can easily believe he's using some magical gem to cast a spell to let this happen. Like a shard of a Chaos Emerald or something. What I have a much harder time believing is that Sonic was able to carry 200 chili dogs at once and run over to the customers supposedly waiting for him, when they'd no doubt be in front of his eyes, making him unable to see where he's running, so he'd inevitably crash into something. Not to mention all those hot dogs would topple over and fall out of his hands and onto the ground, contaminating them. That's where I call bullshit. Anyways, it turns out the person ordering 200 chili dogs was just a clever ploy by Robotnik to make Sonic go away so he can roboticize his uncle. Because I guess he knows that Sonic would be able to defend him from him if he was actually there. Why his uncle specifically? If he's the first one to be roboticized, I'm assuming, why him first? Come to think of it, it's probably just to spite Sonic because he's related to him. Sonic complains about how pollution-filled factories are springing up recently, as if this was the first time he's ever heard of a factory that causes pollution before. This is all setting up the fact that Robotnik is just now starting to take advantage of his robots to be a jerk and building factories with no regards whether they pollute the area he needs to live or not. Seriously, unless he doesn't require oxygen, his level of pollution is just plain stupid. It makes sense on a meta level, considering the classic era of Sonic's arbitrary, pretentious nature versus technology message at the time. I guess it distinguished itself more from Mario by having a lesson to it. But you'd think if Eggman was a genius, he'd know better than to poison his own oxygen supply. Destroying his own planet is going to turn south on him eventually. Also, I apologize if you get annoyed by me calling him Eggman constantly, as that's simply the era I was born in. I don't know him as Robotnik, I know him as Eggman, as silly a name as that is. I'll try to say Robotnik most of the time. So, let me guess. Sonic runs home to find Chuck's gone, finds out he's a robot now and says, "You bastard!" And the comic ends. Well, I was right, excluding the cursing part. Why is he not surprised at seeing a robot chicken as his customer? Is he too stupid to realize he's a robot? This seems out of character. Sonic also complains about Robotnik's factory being smelly. Can't Robotnik smell it too? You'd think that since any human ever would hate the smell of pollution due to biology and stuff, because since, you know, your body has to know that it's bad for you, so it would make you hate the smell. Robotnik would hate pollution from the smell alone. So either he doesn't care because he stays away from the bad smells and it's not his problem, or he somehow relishes in it. Maybe because he altered his biology to somehow make that be the case. I really like the way Sonic talks in this panel. He calls Robotnik a bozo, an insult that his evil twin would later use trying to get some money. And I find that charming, as it shows off that he's an anti-hero. He has an attitude, edge. He talks kind of like a gangster with that, I guess. I can imagine if Scourge had been in the same situation, he would have said the exact same lines. I also find it charming how he complains that not only did Robotnik kidnap his loved ones, but he also owes them for the 200 chili dogs. The next line, Robotnik, is pretty bad though. See, this is why I prefer Eggman. At least Eggman isn't literally a toilet humor joke. Well, let's say but, and that makes it funny. He meets up with Princess Sally and somehow doesn't recognize a world-famous royal figure, which is insulting to the audience's intelligence. I mean, the only way I can think of it making sense is that not everyone's going to recognize, like, say, the Queen of England, or... But yeah, the problem with that, though, is that Sally lives really close. In fact, I'm pretty sure she literally is the princess of the kingdom Sonic lives in right now. There's not recognizing a royal figure from another country, and there's not recognizing the royal figure of the country you're living in. And plus, Sonic doesn't really seem to be that surprised and honored and stuff that he's even talking to a princess at all, although I guess that's just his informal nature kicking in. She teams up with Sonic because her father has already been kidnapped, and shows that she's a smart, responsible one in an establishing character moment by preventing Sonic from running out in front of a bunch of buzz bombers. Sonic finds a rally of brainwashed, roboticized people who look really weird. Seriously, they don't look like how they should later in the comic. And creates a tornado with his super speed, showing a very creative and clever use of his powers both for Sonic and from a writer's standpoint. Of course he'd be able to do this with Sonic speed. He even literally does it in Sonic Heroes. And then because he's disturbed by the roboticized people and wants to save them and his loved ones, Sonic agrees to join the freedom fighters that Sally organized. I don't know how recently her father was kidnapped, but if it was really recent, like as recent as Uncle Chuck's kidnapping recent, I find the idea that she organized the group together so fast really ridiculous unless they were already her close friends. But that's a nitpick. The first story, Don't Cry, like both of these stories were written by Michael Gallagher, and they're both an enjoyable read, with the second one having only a few plot holes as a problem. Well, probably because it was so short. Like, I'm gonna find a bunch of nitpicks and like, this is weird to me in these comics, but generally, I'm still gonna find them an enjoyable read unless I actively point out otherwise. So next up is Sonic Miniseries 1. And I was really meaning to get to, like, reviewing these comics for such a long time. So I'm glad I'm finally starting to do it now.